On today's edition of Blockbuster Breakdown, we are talking all things Avengers Endgame. Yes, it's been about a week since the movie came out, and myself and Mike have had time to not only see it, but to let it settle, and we're ready to give all of our thoughts, all of our in-depth thoughts on this movie and what it means for the Marvel Universe, what it meant for us as viewers personally. As I mentioned, Mike is joining me on today's show. Mike, how's it going? Endgame, was it everything you wanted?
What's up, guys? Yes, Endgame was everything I wanted and more. I was happy that I couldn't predict everything. Sometimes I'm like, I can figure this out, but it twists and turns. The 3 hours felt like 30 minutes, and it was such a great time. I'm happy I got to see it in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie was so special to myself and Mike, and we're going to get into all of our thoughts and reactions in just a little bit on this show. Now, usually when we do movie reviews, sometimes the structure feels very fast in the sense that we are summarizing a lot of the movie and we don't have a ton of time to give our analysis and our thoughts afterwards. So what we thought we would do, so we can maximize all of our time giving our reactions and best moments of this movie, is we're going to start this review with a little segment I like to call the 2-minute drill. And it's going to work like this. Myself and Mike are going to summarize this 3-hour movie in 2 minutes. And this means not a synopsis. We are going to take you from the first frame of the movie to the last frame of the movie in 2 minutes time. As that is being said, that's your spoiler warning. I think it goes without saying, if we're going to record a 45-minute podcast talking all things Avengers Endgame, of course, that needs to have spoilers involved. So if you have not seen the movie, go out, buy yourself a ticket, and watch it before Monday, because after Monday, the Russo brothers said on Twitter, the spoiler ban has been lifted, and you are free to tweet out spoilers, and if people see spoilers and they're upset about that, you had your two weekends to see it already. So make sure you go see Endgame this weekend. Mike, are you ready to do a little 2-minute drill summarizing Endgame?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to switch off every 10 seconds. So when I point to Mike, can you see me?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm going to point to Mike, and that's when he is going to take over, and we'll just go back and forth. And Mike, when your 10 seconds are up, I'll just start talking over you, if that's cool with you.
All right. Yeah.
All right. And I will get a 2-minute timer going right now, and I will start in 3, 2, 1. All right, we open this movie on Hawkeye's farm. Hawkeye's playing with his kids and all that, and he shoots an arrow, and then all of a sudden his family dusts, and he's super upset, and then we get into the title scene, and from there,
you have everyone in the room, and they're like, oh, crap, Thanos, he just used the Infinity Stones again. I think maybe we can go and get him. So they go to the planet where Thanos is, and they're like, fuck you, Thanos, and they chop off his head.
They chop off his head. He's dead. He's dead in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then we see it says 5 years later. Oh, my God, we're just going to continue there. Cap's at a support group. He's telling people, you got to move on, and just all that good stuff.
And then Rat opens up the quantum realm, and Scott Lang pops out, and he's like, I'm here now. And you go, I have to find my daughter. And he goes, Cassie, you're old now. I have to go help you.
And Cassie's super old, but when Scott was in the quantum realm, he didn't age at all. It was like 5 hours. And then he says, oh, we could do time travel maybe, but Tony doesn't want to be in on the plan because he has a kid, and he's kind of moved on. He's fine with the world right now.
And then Tony just doesn't matter about that. Tony invents time travel, and he goes, well, I guess I invented time travel. And then they do a funny skit, and Ant-Man goes big. It's an old man and a little baby.
And all the Infinity Stones have been destroyed, so they have to go through time and do a time heist and go back to Thor: The Dark World, the Avengers, and Guardians of the Galaxy, so they can get all the stones through time and then undo the snap.
And there's funny hijinks ensue. They go back to the original Avengers movie, and Hulk punches a car, and he's like, I'm just a nice guy now. And then there's a Hydra thing, and then Loki takes the Tesseract
and
Hulk goes away.
Hulk is sentient, and he's half Bruce Banner and all that, but then they try to get the Space Stone, but they can't, and then Loki steals it, and they have to go back to 1970, where Captain America and Iron Man meet the people from 1970.
I remember 1970, and Tony Stark meets his dad, and he's like, Dad, you have the same issues as me. And Captain America's like, I love you, Peggy Carter. And we go back to space, and we have War Machine and Nebula, and they knock out Peter Quill and take the power stone of Black Widow. So
we have 20 seconds, and then they undo the snap, but in that time, Thanos travels through time, and he fights them, but then everyone comes back into the greatest battle of all time.
Black Widow dies.
Black Widow dies on Vormir, and the greatest battle of all time happens, and Tony Stark snaps to get rid of Thanos' army, and he died, and oh, man. That is our time.
And then Cap is old.
Cap goes through time to return the stones, and he comes back living his whole life. He's an old man. Tony Stark dies as a funeral, and it's all really emotional. We went a little over 2 minutes there, but it's very hard to summarize this movie in 2 minutes. that being said, we've got our summary out of the way, and we still got a whole bunch of time. Let's get right into it. Mike, before we get into favorite scenes and everything, I just want to know, what did this movie mean to you?
I have been a proponent and fan of superheroes, not just superhero movies, since I was a kid. And I think that really came into my own in 2008 when the original Iron Man came out, which today is actually the anniversary of that.
Yes, it is.
Iron Man came out, right? I believe so.
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday. So it is a big deal. And I may not have seen all those movies in the theater when they first came out, but I remember like on FX, they'd play like the Iron Man trilogy again and again. And I just keep on watching those movies. So Iron Man was always my favorite. So having his story being wrapped up in this movie and doing it so well and so respectfully, I think it was just perfect. Like they had more characters than Infinity War, and it felt even more contained, and they knew what they were doing in this movie. Like it felt like I'm reading a comic book and it's just coming right on the screen, especially in that last battle. It looked like a page right from the book, and I hope that Stan Lee was able to see this before he passed away. I feel like they probably had this done by the time he died pretty recently.
I think it was December. December.
So maybe I hope you got to see some cuts of this, because this is his vision. Like this is everything that he worked towards, and it's very special.
Yeah. For myself, I feel like I summarized it pretty well in my tweet reaction, but I'll get into more in depth afterwards. My tweet basically was, Avengers Endgame was my everything, the perfect culmination to the cinematic universe that raised me from boyhood. I legitimately cried the entire third act. Never have I felt what I felt tonight. It validated my 11 years of dedication to the MCU. Pure fulfillment. #thank you. So yeah, this movie, as Mike said at the beginning, was everything I wanted it to be and more. It was so special to me to see all these characters that I have legitimately grown up with. I mean, Mike, you referenced it in 2008, seeing the first Iron Man. I was in theaters for the first Iron Man. I've only missed 3 MCU movies in theaters, that being The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, and Guardians Volume 2. I've seen every other movie in theaters, most of them opening night, if not the second weekend. In this universe, it's been so special to me. I remember going to see the first Captain America with my dad for my birthday. I remember forcing my dad and brother to take me to the first Avengers premiere when that was before tickets were bought online. We had to wait in line for tickets for like 2 hours. It was brutal. But
I saw Avengers in premiere day by accident.
By accident? How did that go?
My grandma didn't realize it was opening that day, and she's like, "Why is the line so long?" And like I was little, I didn't know, but like turns out premiere.
Yeah. And I just remember like going through my life, and like I'm 18 now, Mike, so are you. We're freshmen in college, and we're seeing this universe culminate that started when we were in elementary school.
We were 8 when this started.
It's nuts.
It's 10 years. Yeah.
And so everyone has that generation, that thing that they've grown up with. For people in the 70s going into the 80s, it was Star Wars. And while we do have Star Wars movies coming out now, like our generation saga is the MCU. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's amazing that we have a series of 22 films that feel like a TV show because they all are somehow interconnected. They all play into each other. And when you go back and watch specific movies now, knowing what happens, it makes it even more special. I recently rewatched the first Iron Man, and it is so much different than the first time.
Yeah, isn't it? I was watching the first Avenger recently, and I was just like kind of laughing at the whole Star-Spangled Man with a Plan sequence, because like to see how far he goes from that. Even in that like first movie, you get a sense, but like it's so different after. Just like it goes together so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you go back and watch the first Thor and see, how much he's gonna lose, how much he's gonna change as a person.
How much he changes. Physically
too. we'll get into that for sure. Oh my God, we didn't even say that in our 2-minute drill about Fat Thor.
Thor's fat.
But yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, you're not listening for a summary, you're listening for our reaction. So we'll get into all that. But yeah, basically this movie just was really special to me because it's a perfect form of escapism. It's a great way to just leave the real world. A quick little anecdote. I go to school in Syracuse University, and I drove home 5 hours basically just for one day so I could see this movie with my friends from home and at our favorite theater. And it was just one of those things where it's like, Yeah, to some people it's just a movie, but to me it's an event. I would do the same thing for the Red Sox for a World Series game. I would drive home for that. I would do the same thing for Avengers. And while to a lot of people, some may say, "Oh, that's sad, that's stupid, it's just a movie." It's so much more. It really means a lot to me because with your sports teams, you grow up with different generations of sports teams, and the rosters change, the players change. From 2008, I have had the same Tony Stark as I have in 2019. From 2011 to 2019, same Thor, same Captain America. And it's just really special to not only watch myself grow up, but watch these characters grow with myself. And that, a lot of people will say it, it's kind of an age-old tale at this point of people saying how they grew up with this universe, but it's very rare that I can actually relate to when people say stuff like that, and I can 100% relate to this. So that's why this movie was so special to me, because it was the culmination of everything from my childhood till now. And Mike, I feel like you're in the same boat with me as that.
Yeah, I wasn't as lucky as you to get back home to see it, but I did see it with a group of friends here from Salve, and we all loved it. We all enjoyed it. I definitely need to see this again. I think when I go home next week, I think I'm going to go see it again. I just need to. It's like I don't really go back to see movies twice. I think the last time I've done that was for It, and that was only because I saw that opening night with my parents and then wanted to see it with you guys later. Yeah. But I just need to see this again because it's just crazy. I remember being 8 years old with my even though I had an X-Men t-shirt, but still it kind of relates. I was I had X-Men t-shirt, being Iron Man, running around my backyard, and now it's oh, it's over. At least this saga, it's nowhere gonna
this
be over.
Generation, yeah.
It's just crazy. This that's so different from where I am right now.
Yeah.
It's all that's a constant. That's been there. It's a constant.
Yeah. I have already seen it twice. After opening night, I went back to see it again with my brother because he wanted to see it, and he's not as involved with the MCU, but I thought it would be special to see it with him because at least I could share my passion and just kind of explain to him how this is something that will never be replicated. Before we get into all that stuff with plot details, we want to talk about something else that will never be replicated, and that is the Avengers Endgame box office numbers. We won't spend too long on this, but we're going to gush about this movie, and it seems that everyone in the world wanted to gush about this movie as well. It made $357 million domestically opening weekend. Just to show how crazy that is, last year Infinity War made $257 million, and it was 20 minutes shorter. So this movie was longer, and it made $100 million more. It's the fastest film to $1 billion. It made $1.2 billion worldwide in its opening weekend. Those numbers are kind of untrustworthy only because it opens different dates everywhere. But if we focus on domestic alone, the first Avengers was the first film to crack 200 million opening weekend. I believe it's at about 205 opening weekend. This film made $150 million more than the first Avengers. Mike, how unprecedented is this?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, all good. How unprecedented is this box office numbers for Endgame?
I mean, just it being already number 5, right one below Infinity War is crazy. It's already caught up to Infinity War, which came out a year ago. So I'm happy about it. I hope it kicks Avatar down from that spot. No more Avatar. Get rid of it. No, just put Endgame where it goes up there. That's where Endgame belongs. Just those big box office movies. And Endgame is the biggest one I think you could ever get. How much it was $356 million to make. So yeah, it deserves being up on that $2 billion budget. The revenue it makes.
Yeah, it's already made its budget back tenfold easily, and it's just about $1 billion away from reaching Avatar. That is a movie I thought would never be passed. Avatar stayed in theaters for 9 months. It had incredible legs, and it was marketed as the first 3D movie. You have to see this in 3D in the theater, and that's why you have a lot of people going, a lot of people paying a lot of money for 3D tickets, and having to go to the theater rather than waiting for it at home because they want to have that theater experience. So I thought, nothing's going to top that, because even though it's not the greatest movie, it was marketed